Life is often shaped by challenges we face, the disciplines we build, and the purpose we choose to serve. Few professionals embody these qualities more than the military. The leadership is tested daily. Decisions carry real consequences, and service comes before self. I am Jaideep Padalwar, author of Engineering the Australian Dream and host of Life Unplugged, where we explore the stories, experiences, and life lessons of remarkable individuals. Our today's guest is Major Simran Singh, a retired Indian Army officer and the creator behind Bunkers and Beyond, and an actor and with many more hats that we could ever imagine. Having dedicated years of life to serving the nation, he brings a wealth of experience in leadership, resilience, teamwork, and navigating challenges under pressure. Beyond his military career, he is passionate about sharing lessons from the armed forces that can help people lead more successful and purposeful and impactful lives. Thank you, Major Simran Singh, to join us on the podcast. Before we deep dive into your experiences, let's start with the most important question. Are you happy?
What an interesting question that you've asked me, Jaideep. But before I answer that, I will express my gratitude to you to have found me worthy enough to be brought in as a guest on your podcast. I quite like this question that you've just asked me if I'm happy. Firstly, yes, I'm extremely happy, but with the caveat that I'm very fortunate and I'm cognizant of the fact that I'm very grateful to the universe to have given me the life that I live. And all of this combined enables me to be able to truly say that I am happy. Why I can say that also is because I truly believe that it's always going to be a choice. Each one of us has a choice of how to take on life and how to recognize our choices, and then how do we make good with either of our decisions to help us choose better. And then it's up to us how true we remain to our choice. And I realize that I choose to be happy because I then keep the onus and the button of happiness with me and myself, because happiness is going to be internal. And the sooner we realize that, then it's easier for us to be able to align our thoughts and our actions to be able to pursue that singular goal that actually truly makes us happy. So yes, that's my answer to am I happy? Yes, I'm extremely happy.
Now that you have mentioned that the choices make determine if you're happy or not, and whatever choice you make, stay true to it and be satisfied with whatever choices you have made. So, in your entire journey of life, what choices did you make that made you to a conclusion that the choices are the main source of happiness and not the pursuit of it?
Okay, very nice. I'm a third generation Indian Army officer, and so Army was always there. I was born in a military hospital, and that is probably a stroke of luck or chance or destiny, that it decided that I be born in such a family. But वो फिर मुझे लगता है शायद वो घर की मुर्गी दाल बराबर वाली बात हो जाती है that I never had any intention of being in the armed forces, but the background of the family that I had and the kind of life that I lived, I realized that adventure is a big, big part of my life, and thrill is a non-negotiable for life. And as kids, also, I remember that my father was posted in a remote place in Northeast, and we were there, and we used to go for vacations. And just to have fun on a Saturday or a Sunday, we would be hiking mountains. And I would have been probably 6 or 7, and my sister would have been 3 or 4 maybe. And now when I look back at that time and I realized that, dude, we were kids, but we were climbing mountains, and literally mountains in the Northeast. So all of us friends in the cantonment would get together, pack our bags with small little knickknacks and do that. And we're going onto the mountain and we're finding small grenade pieces which are exploded. So this is the kind of childhood that I had. And then by virtue of being an army officer's son, I was exposed to golf and archery and shooting and swimming and horse riding. And also constant travel every 2 years, moving with dad and living that kind of a life. So I realized that I am not really cut out for a desk kind of a job, and adventure was a big, big non-negotiable for me. And Also the creative arts and performance arts, because I truly enjoyed being on stage, and I was a debater growing up while I was in school. So being on stage was also a passion that I strongly had. And I mean, there was no intention and there was no merging of both these worlds of, wanting to chase adventure as a military person or being on the creative side. In fact, while growing up, I still remember, and a fancy dress competition, somebody would be a paracommando, somebody would be a sailor, somebody would be a pilot. I would be the kid who would dress up like probably Ravan from Ram Leela, or some crazy caricature that would have an elaborate costume, and वो मॉम के आईब्रो पेंसिल से ऐसे मूछे वूछे बनाई हुई हैं, full एकदम नौटंकी. And I would prepare a dialogue and I would practice laughing like Ravan, ha ha ha. So I was that kid, and that was the choice from the background that I had. All these things, I chose to go and study films. When I was in college, when I was doing my graduation from Chandigarh, I was pursuing theatre very strongly, and I was a part of the Chandigarh University, sorry, correction, Punjab University theatre contingent, which went to participate in the Youth Fest of SAARC nations as well. And we got a prize there as well. And so we were performing, and I was part of the major theatre scene in Chandigarh, and that led me to believe that this is something I really enjoy, and I want to pursue this further. I had filled my entrance forms for St. Xavier's College, Bombay, and it just so happened that, again, by chance, one of my very thick friends, he was filling up for the army because his elder brother was in the army. And he said कि यार सिमरन, मैं अपना भर रहा हूँ फॉर्म, तेरा भी मैंने भर के भेज दिया है, तो हमने जाना एग्ज़ाम देने. एंड आई एम लाइक, डूड, मैंने तो यार कोई प्रिपरेशन नहीं की है, एंड आई डोंट नो. सो वन संडे, द एग्ज़ाम यूज टू बी द CDS, Combined Defense Services exam, used to be on Sunday. On Friday and Saturday he sat me down and he taught me everything. He said कि मेरा रिविजन हो जाएगा और मैं तेरे को भी बता दूंगा क्या है. By stroke of luck or whatever the reason may be, I cleared my exam. And this was the first time that I sat for that entrance, and I said, okay, fine. Adventure was always a part of the game, so I said, okay, fine, let's try this as an experience. And I spoke to my dad and I spoke to my grandfathers, and they were also very excited. And so I went to the services selection board in 2010, and I had gone there just to have fun and meet new people and create new memories and gather more experiences, irrespective of the outcomes. But probably that's what worked in my favor, and I got recommended. Out of a batch of 140 odd people, there were 3 of us who got recommended, or probably 5, and I was one of them. And when this happened, though, I was also pleasantly surprised and honestly happy, because that was technically, a first achievement for me personally. And the organization that the armed forces is, that it does not function that what is your surname or what is your lineage. What are you primarily decides how capable you are and how you fit into that scheme of things. And that's when I realized, okay, fine, I'm probably capable enough to be an army officer. Simultaneously, I had also cleared my entrance exam for St. Xavier's College, Bombay. And they had called me for an interview. I cleared the interview as well. And I remember having this conversation with my father that, Dad, I'm, just 20 right now, and I've cleared this entrance also, and I've cleared the SSB. I want to study further, and this is the best college in the country, and I have an opportunity. I would like to pursue films. So, like I said, the biggest blessing that I have is that my family is very supportive, and being the filmy person that I am, I would like to say that my father said, "Ja Simran, ja ji le apni zindagi." But yeah, so that gave me a lot of confidence, and I told him that I still have age on my side, and if I don't want to continue after my studies, I will again sit for the entrance, and I'll give it my best shot and probably get recommended again. So that made sense to him, and of course, he being in the senior army officer as well himself, that it's logical that I give chance to something that I really want to pursue, and I went to study film. So that was one choice that I made. The choice was to go and get an experience of the services selection board. From that, I went on to choose a completely different path of, studying films from since. While I was there, I was exposed to a completely different world, boy coming from an extremely protected environment of the army, coming and doing his graduation in Chandigarh, and then moving to the big city, Bombay, the city of dreams, and then pursuing a field which is one of probably the most sought after fields in the country of the world of glamour and glitz and razzmatazz of Mumbai, the film industry. So I went there and I learned, a lot, and we closely followed cinema. And then I started working after my postgrad, and one thing led to another. I was auditioning. I used to go outside studios to check if I fit or something, and I started working in ads. I did a couple of uh, enjoyable TV commercials with big names. One of my most favorite television commercials was directed by Mr. Shimit Amin, who was the director of Chak De India. That was a fun ad that I did. Then from that, I got some visibility. Then I got a call from Yash Raj Films. They were casting for a film called Mere Dad Ki Maruti, and they liked my audition, and then they cast me in that. While I was finishing that, I got called in for another small role in another Y Films, Yash Raj Films film called Bewakufiyan, and I did that. And then after that, one while I was finishing that, I got called in from MTV for a reality show called Drive with MTV. So I said, okay, fine, I'm free and I love travel and I love adventure, so why not? Let's give it a shot. And one thing has always been a constant is that I do a SWOT analysis of sorts. What do I have to lose if I do this or if I don't do this? And I realized I have nothing to lose here. So I went with the flow and I had a fair share of fun. So Drive with MTV happened. They liked my madness on camera and generally how I functioned. So MTV Digital and Viacom 18, they got me in to do digital online stuff. So at that time in 2011 or 12 probably, the YouTube and the OTT space was still taking baby steps. Here I was probably one of the first web jockeys of India, where I had my own online MTV shows called MTV 5 and MTV 1 Minute and MTV Nidar Singh. So you had me hosting Roadies season 10, season 11 for YouTube, and I was going and covering auditions, going through the madness of Roadies. After that, then I was also hosting MTV India's Video Music Awards India. But uh, one choice led to a series of opportunities and different situations and experiences. And one day I realized that I'm soon going to be 24 and it's probably going to be my last attempt. Somehow I used to always fill the call-up sheet which comes. I used to always fill for the entrance exam to go and take the exam. I would never go. 2000 again I had filled up, and that same very day that I had to sit for the exam, I had got an opportunity to do a ad with a very big cricketer for a very big beverage brand. And I was just discussing with a friend, and I said, life has decided, destiny has decided that I'm going to be shooting on the day I have the last attempt for my exam. And then I started talking to that friend, and he's a very close friend, mentor. And he broke down the whole situation, and he said that, is this one ad going to make your career or your life? And I said, probably not. And then he said that there's this another opportunity which you enjoy. And I truly did enjoy the adventure of the armed forces. So I said, yeah, it makes sense. So I said no to the casting director, again a very big name, and I had to say sorry. I am extremely apologetic about this, but I have something more important to do. And that's the choice that I took. I went and sat for the exam. I cleared it. I was called up for my selection interview again. And when I went there, they asked me that, you've been recommended once earlier, 3 years back. Why are you coming back? So I said that at that point of time, pursuing my studies further made more sense to me, and I knew that I had these many chances still left to appear for the services selection board. And this time around, when I've come, I've not told anybody that I'm coming for the interview, because they are very happy, and I'm also very happy with the present life that I live. It's just that I want to explore things further. And if I crack this interview, if I get selected, everybody is going to be happy and it's going to be a win win. If I don't, even then, nobody is going to be sad about the fact that I did not make it because they don't know. And that was just a thought that came to my mind that I'll keep it to myself. And if I clear it, everybody is going to be happy. ज़्यादा क्या होगा, ये बोलेंगे ना कि भाई तूने बताया नहीं हमें, तो ठीक है यार, that's still okay to deal with, and rather they then would be more happy if I clear it. So somehow this made sense to the interviewing officer, and generally he found me okay. And I like to believe that I'm excellent at being average, and that's probably the biggest quality that any good organization, and especially my organization, the Indian Army, requires, because average people have the potential to be extraordinary, but extraordinary people cannot be average or level-headed in a lot of situations. And, probably that's what worked in my favor, and that was again a choice that I actively exercised. And then I went on to train in Officers Training Academy, Chennai. And long story short, I got commissioned as a short service commissioned officer. So my initial tour of duty tenure of service was 10 years. So at about 9.5 years, we have to fill our forms of what is our choice of option. Do I want to continue and seek permanent commission? Do I want to take an extension, or do I want to say thank you and call it quits and continue with my life? And I realized that, after a certain age and service, the quintessential adventure and the thrill and the adrenaline of the army reduces, and you're more into an administrative and planning kind of a role. And again, that took me back to my life's choices and my understanding of life. And I realized that I've had my fair share of fun. I've been a part of active operations, and I've been in the face of the enemy, which a lot of people in their 30, 40 years of service also probably have not seen. There's nothing more that I can seek or want from this beautiful journey of my service of 10 years. And then I took that call of moving out, and then taking my other mission closer home of try to tell stories of armed forces, and taking the stories of armed forces closer home, because then I realized that being a third generation officer, first being a Fauji kid, a Fauji grandson, and then a Fauji myself, I realized what all it took my father and my grandfathers to give us the kind of life that we had. So I have an understanding of that world and a certain sense of authenticity to that. So if I don't tell those stories, then who else will? And that's where I decided that I want to take my journey of storytelling and gathering experiences a step further, and pivot to a different direction. Given all of this long monologue that I've had with you, it just brings me down to this simple fact that I'm aware that I'm very blessed and very fortunate and very privileged to be able to exercise the choices that I've wanted to. And I'm sure there are a lot of people who don't have that luxury a lot of times in life. But I also believe that every problem has a solution. It might not align with our thought process, it might not be comfortable for us, or it might not be convenient for us, but every problem does have a solution. So it just matters how we firstly examine a situation with in our way, and then how we choose to execute it or manage it or deal with it. Yeah, so that's been my crazy mad journey so far. So I don't know what else to say.
And that's a very good journey to have, right from doing movies, being born in an army hospital, to doing movies, to being in army, being part of operations, leaving that, and then going back into what you like. Interesting choices and a right take on problems as well. I don't think that every problem has a solution. I think every problem comes with a solution. It's just a matter of finding it. It doesn't matter what you want, right? What matters is what you should. So in that moment, you should do what you want later in your life. If
Super, love
and
it.
that is my take on problem. Wherever I'm facing something that I think that it's beyond me, I just feel that it's not beyond me. It is just within my
Very
sights.
nice.
I just have to do something different.
I think it's valuable to share, because I come from such a protected environment of living in a cantonment, and being in a very protected environment. Even when I was serving, I knew that world. I grew up in that world. So again, I was very protected. But then I realized that there are a lot of times where I face a problem or a solution, and I keep procrastinating or avoiding it because I don't have the courage to be able to face the outcome. And that's when I realized that that is what I want to fight. And like you said, it is upon us to find a solution to those problems. I realized I whatever would make me uncomfortable or I would be apprehensive or anxious about, I would face it head on. I started pushing myself to face it head on, and then I realized that it's not that bad or not as bad as I make it in my head, and that really helped me. So again, I agree with what you're saying that solutions are a part of the problem. It's just how we find them and then how we deal with them. Super.
Yes.
So you were saying.
When you talked about your journey to be an army officer and being in army, just wanted to ask you, what is the journey like to be in uniform? Because many people like us admire the uniform, but very few of us, including me, don't understand it, don't understand the sacrifices behind it. We do understand that you are away from your family. We do understand all the hard work that you need to put in, the physical hard work that we need to do. But what is it that surprised you the most when you got invited into the army? And also, what was the journey like to come into an army?
I'm so sorry, Jaideep. I would like to just correct you a bit. I was never invited to the army because the Indian Army is the largest voluntary force in the entire world. So I volunteered and I chose to sit for the entrance and face the services selection board interview. And I was recommended to be an officer. And finally, given my merit, I was selected to undergo pre-commissioning training at Officers Training Academy, Chennai. And then I was commissioned as a gunner. And it's such a beautiful question that you asked me again. Like I shared with you that joining the army per se was never on the cards because, again, since it was a part of life, I probably in a way took it for granted. I truly understood the value of the uniform and the feeling of being an army officer when I became an army officer myself. And also the sacrifices and the challenges that came along with that, which my father or my grandfathers never let me or my family feel, because I realized much later that there are a lot of challenges. I'll share a very interesting story with you here of the first time that I felt extremely damn proud of wearing the uniform. So when you go to the Officers Training Academy, the training is in two parts. First semester, second semester, we call it first term, second term. You're a junior in the first term, and then you become a senior termer in second term, and after that you are commissioned as an officer. And I'd like to tell you all here that there are no differences in standards of training or acceptability of the standard of scholastic aptitude or physical aptitude in all the officer cadets who are passed out from Officers Training Academy Chennai or Indian Military Academy Dehradun, or the National Defense Academy Khadagwasla. So the duration is different, and that is why Officers Training Academy is considered one of the hardest and the toughest and the harshest academies for pre-commissioning training, because the time duration is much shorter, because what generally gentlemen cadets, and now of course lady cadets, they're termed as officer cadets. All officer cadets who are from IMA Dehradun get about 18 months, 3 terms to go through the whole process. Whereas in Officers Training Academy, you have 49 weeks or probably 11 and a half months to learn the same curriculum, go through all those physical tests in a much shorter time span, and then of course face the heat of Chennai and the humidity of Chennai, and then get commissioned as officers. So in my first term, when my seniors were being commissioned, it was somewhere in March in 2014, and that feeling of the passing out parade where the entire course is standing and they take their oath of being officers, and as part of the ceremony, 6 bars of the national anthem are played, and the tricolor is saluted. The first time that I saluted the national flag, the tricolor, while the 6 bars of national anthem were being played, it made me so emotional. That ownership of wearing the uniform and being able to salute the national flag, is a different feeling that probably only those who are in service and who've worn the uniform will truly be able to understand. I really feel at a loss for words to be able to explain to you what it means to me, but I'm sure you can imagine. But somebody who's never felt that feeling will truly never be able to understand what all service personnel go through. But that was something that I really felt that this journey was worth it, and I truly cherish it even till today and will always do. So that was the understanding of wearing my first brush of wearing the uniform and saluting the tricolor. As you know, of course we were gentlemen cadets, but it just gave us a preview of what was to follow, and that moment you realize it's all worth it, and truly once in a lifetime kind of an experience. I felt so privileged and so blessed to be in that moment there. So yeah, that was the feeling of I connect with the uniform. Initially, how things started, because I never really had that inclination per se. I just was an adventure junkie, and so blessed that life had that kind of a journey and things played out that way for me. I hope I've answered your question.
Yes, very much. So that brings me to the next question. What is a typical day like for an army officer? Not every day there is a battle or a war,
Correct.
but army is usually associated with war, like in football or in any sport. You spend most of the time in cricket, you spend most of the time fielding than batting or bowling. You need to embrace that time in football or soccer as well. You only get 90 seconds to 120 seconds of actual ball position. Most of the time you are just running around. So then need to be ready, mentally prepared for when the time comes, you have to give your 100%. So, what is the day like to prepare you for that kind of day or that kind of situation?
I must applaud you for the kind of research and the thought process that you've brought into your line of questioning. I'm very happy to answer this question because that is a query in a lot of people generally. कि यार लड़ाई नहीं हो रही है. There is not a war every day. So what are you all doing? Why are you relevant? That makes it even more important to drive home the point that, sir, you never know when the adversary is going to act funny with you. And given that the geopolitical positioning of India, if you're surrounded by a very hostile neighborhood, and also one compounded and very peculiar aspect of warfare that a lot of people probably are not aware about, is that the terrain that India has is so diverse that you have islands, you have the peninsula, you have deserts, you have obstacle ridden terrain, you have the plains, you have high altitude mountains, you have cold deserts. The meat of the military life lies in training, because it is so important that you train so well that when that one moment comes where you are required to perform to the peak of your ability, you go on to carry out extraordinary feats. And I would like to cite an example here. One of my personal heroes, Captain Vikram Batra, Paramveer Chakra, what he and his team were able to achieve at an unimaginable height and in an extremely inhospitable terrain can only be possible when people are continuously and constantly being put through the rigors of physical, mental, psychological conditioning, so that when you are required to perform, you go on to achieve extraordinary feats and yet be able to say ye dil mange more. So that is how the entire routine of an Indian Army officer or an Indian Army unit, or any of the armed forces per se, are laid down. We follow a system of unit tartib. It is basically routine, standing orders for war, standing orders for peace. The basic structure remains the same, that you wake up early, you go for physical training, then you practice your weapon training, then you carry out your brainstorming sessions, you validate your plans, you do war gaming, then you have night training. There are different spells of training cycles, and the basic concept is to be better than the adversary each passing day, because warfare changes every day. Thought processes change, political and geopolitical goals and aspirations keep changing. So the professionalism of a fantastic army lies in the fact that you deliver the day you have to deliver. That takes a lot of hard work, and that takes a lot of planning and understanding. And apart from this, a large part of our life as an officer also is in the administrative function of the units, because there are people there in the organization, and they are true to their duty towards their service, but they have families, and we are generally away from our close ones, our family and our parents and children. For their welfare, there are a number of things that need to be documented and carried out in time, so that people get the benefit. If somebody is posted in a remote location of the line of control, then his family who is staying somewhere in Bihar, they get the benefits of having access to a military hospital in Bihar. For that, they will need certain identity cards and access letters and all these things. It is our job to make sure that those things are regularly carried out and updated and maintained. So this is a small example about the larger administrative function of army officers as well. So that takes time. It's time consuming, and so that is why there's a very important aspect of creating a balance between our training and preparation for war, and also being able to manage this mammoth organization with so many people. So it is all about a race against time, because you're generally uh, wanting to have 48 hours in a day, लेकिन मिलते तो सिर्फ हमको 24 hours हैं. So that takes up our most of the day. So there is a fixed schedule of preparation for war, and then a part of the day is also divided for administrative functioning of the organization.
In my research, I found out that you were involved in the two major operations, Operation Balakot and Operation Sindoor. Just wanted to know your perspective on both the operations, starting with Operation Balakot. Where were you when you actually heard the news of what happened, and what was your reaction to it, and what was your involvement in both the operations? And were you satisfied with the result of the operations?
Okay. Quick disclaimer here. I will only share a personal perspective and personal opinion. When in 2019, when the Balakot strikes took place, we were in a location, and it was late at night or early morning that we got the news to be prepared and ready for any sort of orders that would come. And I was a young captain at that time. I had about 3.5 to 4 years of service, and I was the adjutant of the regiment. And so we were trying to understand, and this was my first brush with an actual operation being called out, or receiving such orders. And at that young service, me and my immediate junior, fantastic officer, he was the quartermaster, another appointment who deals with mostly the logistics aspects of the regiment, and me being the adjutant, I was more into the operational aspects of things. So both of us got together. It's probably 2:30 or 3 a.m. and we are trying to understand what is happening, because everything generally is kept on a need to know basis, and we were only given a few fragments of information, and we were trying to make out of it. And this is a time where social media and the access to a lot of open source information was also limited. I'm talking about 2019. So we are also trying to understand what is happening, and lo and behold, after about a few hours, we got our orders and we were prepared. And now, for me, it was a life coming a full circle kind of a moment, because my father has been a part of the Kargil War, Operation Vijay. My grandfathers have been part of the 1971 and 65 wars. So I said, okay, fine. I'm also getting an opportunity today to be a part of Indian military history. I was quite charged up, and the entire regiment was quite charged up, and we were like, कि भाई सुबह का नाश्ता तो border पार ही करेंगे, those kind of youngster kind of a Josh thoughts and mentality. And this happened, and then Abhinandar sir, after he took down the F-16, he was captured, and what a phenomenal display of professionalism. And I just love the fact of how people in uniform can conduct themselves, even in the face of probably near certain death, and it was there for everybody to witness, and handled quite maturely. And so, but then that happened, and then we were now in a flux as to what is going to be the next order, because of course, as a nation, we want each one of our kind back in our own secure sovereignty and our border. And so when that happened, we were still on standby for a couple of weeks. Then it became months. And then we were like, yeah, shit, yeah, lost opportunity, this and that. And I would personally go on to say that I was slightly disheartened that, I did not get to have breakfast across the border or something of that sort. But much later, I realized how naive and how stupid or how childish I was, because in 2020, when in June, about 6 years from today, I had moved on to move for eastern Ladakh when there were tensions with the northern adversary. And I'm sure you must have heard about the Galwan incident, which happened on the night of 14th and 15th June. So we were again operationally deployed for that. And so this is after about almost a year of having that brush of almost tasted blood with one operation, and here we were being deployed for another one. But now, given the course of growing in service and your own knowing of your team, things were such that we were given orders, and we were told that if you need to fire for effect and don't look back. And then we are climbing mountain ranges, and I realized that I'm praying that there should not be a war, or there should not be a bullet that should fire, because I realized that war is never a part of the solution. It is a part of the problem, and nobody wins a war, especially not soldiers. Those who are in conflict will always be at the losing end of the game. And I was praying that this should not happen, because my BMP driver, he's just been blessed with a baby girl. He's not even seen his child because we are operationally deployed. And the other one of my radio operators, he's the first one in his entire generation of family to have been able to build a pakka house, and he has to go back home for its housewarming. One of my youngsters, he's just got his mother operated for cataract, and she can finally now see, and so he wants to go and meet his mother. And one boy has just recently been married. So I was like, yeah, I'm still a bachelor. I come from a family of army also. They will understand if whatever happens to me, and it'll be okay. But what am I going to do if I lose any one of these people? And that is when I realized that just about a year back, I was gunning for blood, and I was excited about this situation. And now then, when I was finally in that situation, eyeball to eyeball with the enemy, I'm praying that things don't go south, because I value these people and I understand the larger game much better. And I felt that, there are only two things. Firstly, pray and orchestrate that there is never an armed conflict required to solve problems. And then, even if it does happen, then be so bloody good at your job, you are the one who remains, not the other person. Because there are no second places in war, there are no runners up. It's only either you live or you're a martyr or killed in action personnel. So it's better to make the other person die for his country and you claim victory. So that's my perspective of being a part of active operations, and that's the perspective that I had. And will always have. Bloody good at what you do, and then pray that things don't need to be solved in a manner that you don't like being, but then aggression is always important.
Mhm. And what about Operation Sindoor? However, if you, because whatever happened to come to the point of Operation Sindoor was little bit inhuman. I understand that in wars there are casualties, there is collateral damage. It does happen, and India Pakistan has been at war. It has never, on paper, it might have stopped, but the constant tension has been there for a long time. And when something like this happens in Kashmir, when civilians get targeted specifically, like one by one, it is not a mass murder thing, and then some people get to live. It was just a bit inhuman in a way. Like people like me got infuriated where we can't even do anything about it. But you are in a position where you can do something about it. What was your reaction when you actually heard that 21 people lost their lives just on the basis of being of a certain religion?
Yeah, honestly, Jaideep, firstly, most importantly, Operation Sindoor is still on. So I will refrain from talking much of the modalities. I would want to address this as a citizen of this country first, then probably in my own understanding as a soldier. What happened on the 22nd of April in Pahalgam was shocking, I believe, for each and every person in this entire country. And see, like I said, I come from a family of army officers. So for me, I don't understand this whole debate of uh, fragmentation of the cultural or the societal fabric that is there, because for me, each one of us should be treated as equal, and each one of us is equal irrespective of gender, faith, location, uh, because I have lived a life of that, and I have been very fortunate to have had the best of friends from all walks of life, and that is why I feel that, as an Indian, it is the most horrifying thing that could have happened on our motherland, and it is not acceptable, for anybody. Yes, the form that it took was even more disgusting, if I can put it for want of a better word, because terrorism will never have a specific gender or ideology or thought. The whole intent of terrorism is to invoke terror and fear, and the best way to fight terrorism primarily is to tell the other party that, dude, whatever you do, we are not freaking scared of you. Okay, we'll not let you succeed, and that is where the entire country has been resilient and shown solidarity. I do not like the fact that we further fragment ourselves, because everybody feels the same kind of pain, everybody feels the same kind of thirst, everybody feels the same kind of hunger, and everybody is facing similar challenges. So, it was a very, very sad thing that happened, and we need to safeguard, ensure that something like this does not happen in future. But again, given our Western adversary, we can't really say for certainty or surety how long can peace prevail. I really hope and pray we are able to find a solution to this problem. I do realize and I understand, having served for about 6.5 years in a counterinsurgency and counterterrorism environment. In fact, I have 6.5 years of service in J&K. So I was retired from service when we were posted there itself. So I understand the nuances of the environment that are there, and the problem is much more complex for me to be able to just discuss with you or give you a fleeting idea on your show. But secondly, as a military personnel and as a soldier, we are excellent at following orders, and we are very disciplined and we are very professional. And so when that happened, we were also following orders, and we will continue to do so. The best form of offense is, I believe, deterrence, and I think there are a lot of ways and means that we've been able to create a lot of deterrence, and we will always be extremely professional in how we conduct ourselves and how we function. The rest is mostly also a leadership game, wherein a soldier does not have much choice or opinion or options to exercise. So, like I said, we are excellent at following orders, and that's what the Indian Army and the Indian Armed Forces stand for. So, we will go and deliver whatever is expected from us, and in the best possible manner.
So you did mention about that that feeling, that rush of adrenaline, and to be in the face of the evil and fighting it off, to come to a point where you want no more war, you want just peace, you want everybody to be safe on both sides of the border. So were there any other moments where fear was unavoidable, not just from your end, but from a higher end as well? It was unavoidable, but there was some situations where you got into that stage.
Large part of pre-commissioning training that each Indian Army officer goes through, or even today the Agniveers and the earlier recruits, any service personnel who goes through the training, a large part of it is not just physical conditioning, it is also mental and psychological conditioning, and it makes you understand that the absence of fear is not absolute, rather it is the overcoming of fear which is true courage and bravado. And that is why through training everybody is pushed to the absolute end of their limits, so that they firstly realize what are the limits, and secondly then they realize what their true potential is. So fear is a very natural emotion that everybody feels, and that is why army officers or service personnel are not immune to it. People are not superhuman. It's just that we are mentally more aware and stronger, and also better conditioned than an average person to be able to handle stress or fear, or and probably that's what helps us go through the rigmarole of conflicts or tough situations. And also one more important aspect is that we often talk about esprit de corps, naam namak nishan. That becomes a very big binding factor and a motivational force for all of us, because one person, I can be afraid of a situation. When I have 20 other people who are all charged up and motivated, I will also feel my fear being subdued, because now I have my team, those who I've trained with, and those whom I know will have my back no matter what. So that gives you a certain sense of confidence. So the support system is so strong, and the ethos that you support are so strong, that the idea of fear takes a backseat. So that's what keeps us going.
And I could see that chain that you have.
Yeah.
Is that a lucky charm? And how many people do actually believe in luck?
Most of the Indian Army officers are excellent at being average, because then we can go on to achieve extraordinary things. I would want to believe that I'm also absolutely average, and that is where, like any other human being, everybody believes in a stroke of luck. I really enjoy this one quote. I don't remember whom it is by, but it says that we military men, we live by chance, love by choice, and kill by profession. So that just summarizes our idea of luck. And this is not exactly a lucky charm. I would not say lucky charm, because luck is something that is not in your hands, but the harder you train and the better you are at what you do, the luckier you get, is what I believe. And I think generally everybody in the army also believes that. So they're my dog tags, and which we were issued all officers when we were deployed, at a certain place when we were in the face of the enemy and we were supposed to carry out our operations. And this is something that I can still carry as a retired veteran, and this keeps my connect with the armed forces going, and that's why I enjoy keeping this with me all the time, and that's why I would like to consider this as my lucky charm as well.
And one more topic that you mentioned in our conversation about Jammu and Kashmir. You were stationed in Jammu and Kashmir, right?
Yes.
I was not lucky enough. I did a few things that I could actually afford a trip to Switzerland some time back. Went there, looked at the area. It's beautiful. But when I was reflecting that journey, I remembered a quote from 10, 20, 30 years back. I saw on Doordarshan that Kashmir is the Switzerland of Asia, or the Switzerland of the Eastern world. And Kashmir is 10 times bigger area wise than Switzerland. So Kashmir would be extremely beautiful, right? And it is just disheartening that it is center of the conflict. It is very volatile. The things that happen there makes people, a normal people, just don't want to face that kind of trouble. Like people like me, it is beautiful. I understand that I would love to go there, but even if there is like 0.1% chance of something bad happening, I would rather not face that challenge. So, do you think, in your opinion, that Kashmir will become safer than it is right now, or it has been in the past? That like a normal people can also go there and they can enjoy tourism without any kind of fear? First of all, how beautiful is Kashmir? I have never seen it. Can you describe it?
Sir, if I were capable enough of describing Kashmir in a few sentences, then probably I would have been reborn as Shakespeare. But I'm just Major Simran Singh, so I don't think I'm capable enough of doing that. But having said that, you're absolutely right. Kashmir is exquisite, and I somehow don't like the comparison when we say that it is the Switzerland of Asia. I think in certain aspects, even Switzerland will be not as stunning as how Kashmir is, because I mean I don't know. I've never traveled to Switzerland. I would love to if I get an opportunity ever. Probably then I'd be able to understand this remark better. But I truly believe that Kashmir in itself is extremely, extremely beautiful, and it's impossible to put it down in words. And that is what some poet also said कि अगर ज़मीं पर कहीं जन्नत है तो वो यहीं है यहीं है यहीं है about Kashmir. You have a beautiful environment there and amazing food. The sad part is that probably I feel that it is so beautiful and so amazing. उसको शायद नज़र लगी हुई है तभी, and that's a very desi thing to say. But I mean, I might get cancelled for saying this, being somebody from the army. But मुझे ऐसा लगता है कि हाँ यार, because and I really hope that things become better, and everybody is able to enjoy the beauty of Kashmir respectfully. So, because even when I've traveled by virtue of being a Fauji kid and then serving myself, I've generally seen the length and breadth of the country. But when I was deployed to Eastern Ladakh, and the moment the first night ended and I saw daybreak, I cannot even tell you the kind of landscape that I saw. I had to literally pinch myself to be able to realize and feel that this was real. It was so stunning. The kind of colors that no new age display or anything can do justice to. The quality of air, the color of the skies, the color of the moon, the natural beauty, the wild Asian ass, those animals, wild animals running around unabashed, the kind of flora and fauna that you would see there. I was myself so shocked that I had no idea this kind of a place even existed on earth, and let alone my own country. So I was so fortunate to be there, and that's where I truly say that of course now Ladakh is not a part of Kashmir, but then Kashmir is Kashmir, and I really hope that we are able to find a permanent solution to this problem, and each citizen of this country is able to go and experience and enjoy the beauty, the love, and the hospitality of Kashmir, and that's one prayer that I have.
Now that you have left the army, came back to the normal world of the normal life, so you do see that there are certain aspects of Indian law enforcement which in a way promotes terrorism. I'm not saying that promotes that come here and kill us, but the lack of being efficiently managing that the entire portfolio of threats, like be it sleeper cells, they are there because there's some kind of inefficiency in law enforcement, that there are people inside our community there living there to do us harm in near future or in a distant future. So do you feel that army is doing more than 100% on the border, but if local law enforcement does the same thing inside, then the problems at the border would solve by itself?
Yeah, Jaideep, you know what? I would not like to believe that law enforcement or the civil administration is doing terrorism against its own countrymen. I find that thought not correct or aligned with my sensibilities. But I understand that India in itself is one of the most challenging countries to exist in the entire world. The beauty of this country lies in its diversity and its scale. We are an extremely huge force to reckon with, but only provided we transform that value into something which makes sense, and talking about it from a very macro level, I would feel that firstly, it is one basic sensibility that I've seen generally in people is having a chalta hai attitude. We are a bit complacent with a lot of things. That I feel breeds into larger problems. The smaller fractures of such thought lead to bigger gorges or crevices, which become larger fault lines, which anti-national elements are always looking out to exploit. Yeah. So, like I said, even in the army, deterrence is the best form of offense, because if we are able to deter that one or anti-national element, because for them it is only important to succeed once, but for peacekeepers it is our job to succeed every day. And it's tough, it's challenging, because it gets monotonous, it's stressful, but that's our job. Okay, we've got to do what we got to do. That is why I feel that India per se should grow up into being a nationalistic and asset, you know, uh, driven country. And when I say asset, I mean asset in terms of thought, in terms of action. A lot of times we ignore a lot of things कि यार ठीक है, कोई फर्क नहीं पड़ता, क्या बात है, मेरा क्या है, मेरा क्या लेना देना है. I'm sure you staying in Sydney would understand, the civil society in itself is a force that, somebody from outside who's trying to create havoc will have to also fight some sort of friction from the general public as well. I don't see that happening at a larger level in our country, because everybody is so bothered with their own problems in life. यार सबकी जिंदगी में खुद इतना problem चल रहा है. And then that brings me to, the handicap of the law enforcement also. The size of the population and the size of the country is so vast, it's not possible to plug each and every hole. You can see that in every aspect, be it healthcare, be it traffic, be it administration, be it law enforcement. We need to start evolving systems which are able to have more people on ground to be able to firstly address, identify, and then anything which is anti-national. And so that's my answer to this larger problem that you said, because I also believe that each one of us is doing their own job, and that honesty and sincerity to do your job well is something that is missing in the civilian law enforcement, which is instilled in us in the armed forces right from day one.
If you have to be an army officer, just as an advice for our listeners, if you have to be an army officer, you have to firstly believe in the orders. You have to be detached with your own feeling. Only then you can be an efficient officer. Because I have a general feeling about India. Like, we all say proud to be Indian, but there are only a few who actually believe in that. Not everybody is proud to be an Indian if they don't say so. We just keep on repeating itself. If you repeat that statement, you start believing in it. There are many people in Australia, they don't actually say it out loud to be proud to be Australian, because they are actually proud to be an Australian. But that feeling doesn't come in India. So what do you think that can happen in India in infrastructure wise, where people can actually start detaching themselves from day-to-day problems and then focus to make the entire society safer?
I am somebody who believes more in action than in things out loud. Proud to be an Indian just as a statement does not make sense if you eat a packet of chips and you throw the wrapper on the road. As simple as that. This basic understanding needs to come from the society itself. And since I'm based in Delhi right now, I see a lot of people who are educated and well off, not following traffic rules, littering here and there, people spitting, parking incorrectly, just cutting corners for a small, brief, temporary gain or a feeling of joy. I think we need to grow out of this mindset. Infrastructure is a much larger problem, and I'm not an expert. I don't want to comment on that. But the mere fact I feel is that I would like to believe that it's easier to build a road in a remote area or a village than to be able to address a challenge in a highly populated city. But it just proves that you're more efficient, taking a bigger challenge by building roads. I mean, I've seen in so many places they are constructing roads. It's going on for years. There are so many people who've died. So I was going through one of the proposals, and I vaguely remember that whenever a road is being constructed, the contractor is supposed to provide a shunt, a bypass of that construction site so that traffic does not halt. These things are not carried out in India. So that again comes from that same understanding that chalta hai. Nobody is checking, the social responsibility or the personal responsibility of citizens per se is slightly weaker, I would feel. And until the time that does not happen, we don't keep people accountable. We do not are ourselves accountable. Then it's a distant dream for us to be able to truly feel proud to be Indian. Because again, drum bashing and just sloganeering or shouting or just cheering for a sports team does not or should not probably just define us as a nation or as a citizen. I think it is more in terms of action and in terms of reflection that others should be able to say and be in awe of the fact that, oh wow, you're from India, must be amazing. I would love to see that happening in future.
India is becoming that force outside of India. When will India become a force inside of India? And that is why I thought this question would make some sense from your perspective. So, that first of all is, what mindset do you think that is good from your army days in your personal life? Because there's so much that can be learned from army, because I read army books a lot. It is mostly autobiographies of Alexander, Genghis Khan, Napoleon, like the major event of army professionals. There is a kind of mindset in it which you can actually take it into a daily life and then shape your life in a better way. What mindset would you recommend? What, according to you, you can take away from army to have a fulfilling life outside?
Honestly, since I come from a service background, this factor that I'm going to talk about was always a fundamental. But now that I am out of uniform and out of service, I understand it better is the quality of having discipline. Now that I realize that now I have to be self-disciplined, because earlier it was enforced by my family or my parents, or then later on by the organization that I was a part of for 10 years. Now today it is more self-imposed, but it is extremely valuable to me because it gives structure to my life. I'm able to formulate a routine. I'm able to formulate a pattern which helps me, or rather optimizes my functioning better. So that is one quality that I feel that everybody who wants to have a positive outlook towards life should be disciplined. Being on time is also reflective of how disciplined you are. Being physically fit, being mentally fit, being good at your job, again, all stems from this one aspect of discipline, and that is one quality that I would say that is paramount.
Do you think India or any other countries should actually have the rule that everyone has to serve the army, if not to actually serve the army, but just to make yourself a better human being? Can army do that? Can India do that? And should people want to be doing that?
Okay, so I'll answer this question of yours in two parts. Firstly, nobody can teach you to be disciplined. Discipline is a quality that one develops. So that comes through yourself. If I'm choosing to be punctual, it's because of first fear that I might get punished or I might be sent for a run. I don't want to do that, so it's better and easier and the path of least resistance to on time and not be late. Okay, but if you feel that the armed forces is going to be able to tell you that do some jantar mantar or put some churan in your drink and make you have it, and then suddenly one day you wake up and you will be disciplined, I'm sorry, it does not function that way. It's important for you to be your own best friend and be strict with yourself, because if you will not accept nonsense or cutting corners from anybody else, then you have to hold yourself accountable as well. So you have to be your own best example of what you would expect others to be. If you expect others to be punctual, you also will have to be punctual. we get an opportunity as armed forces personnel to experience all of this because everything happens like clockwork. After a certain point of time, we get used to it. It's important to be disciplined because then it becomes a part of every aspect of your life. How you eat, how you dress, how you think, how you talk, how you function. So, if you feel that the armed forces will be able to teach you all of this, is a misplaced thought. It will make you discover yourself what is required to do at a certain specific point of time and in a specific situation in your own capacity as per your own capability. So that's the part of people who want to develop this quality. It's not important for you to go join the armed forces, or armed forces is not a correctional school where you can go join and then get modified and then come back in the world and be excellent. You can do that from the comfort of your home, provided you are able to put yourself through some sort of discomfort and fight your own challenges and your own barriers. If you can't be strict with yourself and if you can't talk to yourself honestly, then I'm sorry, you're just wasting your time, because then nothing will help. And the second part that you mentioned about conscription, which is mandatory military service in other countries, it's a personal belief. My understanding is that I strongly feel that the armed forces or the lives of soldiers or the welfare of soldiers is so many times so misinterpreted by the general world, and people are so quick to comment upon something that has happened somewhere related to the army, or just to talk down somebody from the defense forces. I feel that in our country, for anybody to be eligible for any government post, should have mandatory 2 years or 3 years of service, so that people are aware of the challenges, they are aware of the environment, and they're aware of the sacrifices that people in uniform go through, irrespective of their service, be it army, navy, air force. That's a personal thought. I feel that somebody who is in a position of authority and who takes decisions for the greater good should definitely have mandatory military service, so that they're aware, and then when they form policies or take decisions or pass comments or form opinions, they are better informed. And I would feel that the armed forces then will have a better say in the society and a better understanding rather. Because I know it's the most respected organization in the country. There's any problem, the buck stops at the Indian Armed Forces. If you need to build a bridge, the biggest infrastructure companies will say, okay, we can't do it, but then you have the engineers, the sappers coming up and building the Elphinstone local railway station bridge. And if you have some major disaster, again, like the Chennai floods or the Wayanad floods, you had the Indian Army coming in and carrying out relief work. So the professional standing or the societal understanding of the functioning of the armed forces or the professionalism of armed forces definitely something that everybody is aware of. But the smaller nuances that how the life in the army is and how the challenges manifest and what the sacrifices are, one will only be able to understand when people wear the uniform themselves. So that's my take on mandatory conscription. I don't think it will be possible for everybody to be conscripted for like the other foreign countries, but as an eligibility criteria, people who want to appear for government services, I think they can be given mandatory 2 or 3 years of service that can count towards their age relaxation. Of course, it will be much complex, and this is just a very superficial thought, but I feel that something in that direction is good for the country at large and for better policy making, maybe.
Thanks for your time. Thanks for your insights. And it has been lovely to chat with you.
Thank you so much, Jaideep. It's been an absolute pleasure to be here chatting with you. I hope I've been able to share something valuable. I'm still in the process of living my life and being able to achieve and do things that I truly enjoy. And if I'm able to contribute to your journey as well, I'm most grateful and most privileged. Thank you so much.